Free Guy, out in theaters, new video game comedy starring Ryan Reynolds, Jodie Comer, Taika Waititi and Joe Keery. Originally scheduled to release last summer, moved up several times because of the COVID pandemic, and finally came out a week ago. Ryan Reynolds plays Guy, a sweet, cheerful bank teller whose every single day looks exactly the same. Wakes up, says hello to his goldfish, puts on his blue shirt, drinks coffee on the way to work, spends his day there, and then goes back home, rinse and repeat. That is because he's actually an NPC, a non-playable character in an online video game. He's not a real person. Every day, all around him, the real players, identifiable by sunglasses which turn on the user interface and give you the ability to interact with items and so on. The players shoot each other, go on car chases, paraglide through the city, do various violent missions, rob banks and so on. Think GTA Online mixed with Fortnite and you're pretty much good to go. Guy also has a dream to finally meet someone to fall in love with and spend the rest of his life with, and this person that he's waiting for needs to have some very specific qualities. And you know, the joke between him and his bodyguard friend from the bank is that he'll never meet somebody like that. But one day he does meet that girl on his way, which does something to the program's logic, awakens him and allows him to start behaving like a player, to become free in his actions. So he gets sunglasses, he starts to follow the girl, who of course in fact is a real player named Millie. And there is more to her as well. She actually used to be an indie video game developer who claims that her original code was stolen and Free City is based around it. And the only way to prove it is to go in-game, find a hidden level which was created by her. The heroes are on the clock though, because the greedy CEO of the video game company that owns the game, played by Taika Waititi, plans to release the sequel to the game in just 48 hours, and when that happens, he wants to turn off the servers for the old one, and the chance will be lost forever. So, seems a bit complicated, but it's actually very smoothly explained in the movie itself. What you have to know is that this is a typical Ryan Reynolds action comedy, where he plays the goofy, clueless guy around whom grander things are happening. And it borrows heavily from things like The Truman Show and Tron, and on the video game side, as I already mentioned, GTA Online and Fortnite. And I have to say, as ridiculous as that premise seems on paper, I enjoyed myself watching this film. Reynolds is extremely charismatic, as usual. He's got good chemistry with Jodie Comer. The action is fun and exciting. The jokes are genuinely funny. Some of them actually laugh out loud funny. When it comes to adapting the video game mechanics and atmosphere, yes, the film does take liberties, and some and some things make no sense if you ever play the video game, but they do serve, the changes serve the story, and the shortcuts serve the story. And on the other hand, there's also a lot of stuff that I actually know from real video games. Things like, you know, leveling up, having your own stash filled with items and vehicles, multiplayer lobbies, respawn mechanics, cosmetic skins for your character. Several times in the film, there are also tiny things happening like in the background, which I think, you know, more casual viewers who are not familiar with video games would completely miss. But I laughed out loud at them because they're ripped directly from video games, and specifically from video game behavior. Like there's one character that just runs across the street and he just jumps all the time while running, as people do in FPS games. There's another which tries to run into a wall and the run animation sort of runs in place. There's somebody teabagging a guy that he just killed. I mean, clearly the people involved in making this movie know video games, and I can appreciate that. There's also a bunch of really great cameos, which I won't spoil all of them, just one. Basically, in the opening scene, Channing Tatum shows up uncredited without a warning, and then he appears again later in the film in what was probably my favorite scene of the entire film. There's also a moment in the final act where a bunch of items from other famous franchises make an appearance, and it was done in such a great way. It made me think of Ready Player One and Space Jam: A New Legacy, where which both of them tried to do the same thing, to put a lot of famous stuff into one place. And in the case of those movies, it often felt very awkward and forced, as if the studio, Warner Brothers in both cases, was just trying to flaunt how much stuff they actually own, how many properties. And this in here feels much more natural and in line with the nature of the film. It fits the setting, and it's also pretty surprising for the viewers, so it works on that level as well. To be fair though, it's not a perfect film. I do have some complaints. I think there are some slight pacing issues, especially towards the end, which feels really drawn out too much. There's a sort of flashback reveal at the end of the film, which is supposed to be this big emotional moment, but I thought the thing that it reveals had been obvious for like 40 minutes prior, and it almost felt like the movie is not respecting the audience to understand that, just laying it all out there once again. Um, Surprisingly, I was also not a fan of Taika Waititi in this film. Normally, I love the guy and his brand of comedy, but something about his performance this time around just rubbed me wrong. I didn't find his character funny or entertaining. But having said that, those are not significant flaws in the grand scheme of things, and the movie, as it is still much better than it had any right to be. I think it's lighthearted fun, it lands its emotional beats, it got many laughs out of me, and it shows examples of respect towards gaming that are, I think, rare in Hollywood. Solid popcorn fun.